Sean Strickland is returning back from suspension for the first time in over a year in another 5-round main event, as he will be taking on a very dangerous Anthony Hernandez, who is currently on an impressive 8-fight win streak in the middleweight division. Hernandez is one of the most aggressive fighters in the whole division, who will just drown you with his constant pressure, high-level grappling, and endless cardio. So will Sean Strickland be able to handle that level of intensity, or will Hernandez just be too much and break him down over time? Let's break it down. First, we're going to start with Strickland, who is one of the most unique fighters in the whole UFC, and not just because of his personality, but because of his style. He likes to fight behind his effective jab. He's not going to do any big explosive movements or crazy leg kicks, but he has nice teep kicks that he uses to help stop his opponents from coming forward and allows him to advance himself. His whole game is built around a high, tight guard, walking down his opponents, and using short but effective combinations, slowly just wearing down his opponents. He is not going to hunt for knockout shots, but he wins with accumulation, control, and pace. One of his biggest weapons is also his cardio. Strickland has proved time and time again that he can fight at a steady pace for 25 minutes against elite competition, and he has also shown, especially in his last couple fights, to be very durable. But here's the issue with this matchup. Strickland is at his best when he can stand and trade with other strikers, but against grapplers, he does become much more beatable. We have seen him be taken down and controlled on the ground before, and against someone like Hernandez, who thrives in chaos and scrambles, that could create some serious problems. Because Anthony Hernandez is probably the most underrated fighter in the entire middleweight division, and when you watch his fights, it's clear, if he's able to get his hands on you, the fight changes completely. Hernandez is relentless with his takedowns, constantly chaining submission attempts, and always looking for finishes in dominant positions in the scrambles, and what really makes him dangerous is his never-ending pace. He isn't going to just try to wrestle you once or twice around, but is going to try to shoot on you over and over again until you eventually break. We have seen him dominate fights with his pressure alone. If you look at his last fight against Lindsay, it is a perfect example of how he could just overwhelm you with his pressure. It is very difficult to set up your game plan and extremely tiring when you're constantly having to be moving backwards the entire fight, and it makes it almost impossible to set anything up. And unlike most grapplers, he doesn't slow down. His cardio might even be a bigger weapon than Strickland's. If this fight becomes a grind, that is one thing that can actually favor him. I see this fight really coming down to one thing. Can Strickland control the distance? Because if he can, he should be able to use his jab and out-volume Hernandez, as I do see him being the more cleaner and more technical striker on the feet. But if Hernandez is able to get takedowns early on, then that can start to change everything. While Strickland does have very elite striking defense, he doesn't do very well when he's being forced on his back foot. He doesn't create much offense in the scrambles, and he doesn't explode back to his feet, which is very problematic when you're facing someone as relentless as Hernandez. Hernandez doesn't need the perfect takedown, he just needs to force the wrestling and create chaos. But at the same time, Strickland does have some factors that favor him as well, having fought 5 rounds multiple times against elite championship competition. While Hernandez has only been to the 5th round one time in his whole UFC career, and he has not fought the same names that Strickland has on his resume, going against opponents like Izzy, Dricus twice, Alex Pereira, Kamaru Usman, Paulo Costa, Imavov, just to name a few, while Hernandez's best wins are against Lindsay and Brandon Allen, who are great fighters, but there is levels to this, and they are not on the same as the other fighters mentioned. Strickland's defensive grappling has to be on point. He doesn't need to dominate the wrestling, but he does have to be able to stuff takedowns, be able to stay off the cage, and force Hernandez to strike with him. If he's able to do that, this becomes a much easier fight. Because of Hernandez's style, if he's not able to control Strickland early on, I can see Strickland starting to take over more later in the championship rounds. For Hernandez, it's simple but very difficult to do to someone as the caliber of fighter as Strickland is. He must close the distance early, don't let Sean find his range or get his jab going, force him into wrestling scrambles, and really try his best to get the fight onto the ground, which favors him the most. This truly really is a very interesting matchup, as Strickland is the more proven fighter on paper as a former champion, more experienced, and great defensively. But stylistically, this is going to be a very difficult matchup for him. It's going to be almost impossible to know how this fight is going to go for either one of these fighters. But with my final prediction, I do believe that Sean Strickland will be able to get this one done by decision. He's just been there in these big fights time after time. I can see Hernandez getting a couple of takedowns early on, but Sean is going to be able to get up eventually. He is a very difficult man to hold down. Also, it is worth to note that Sean has never been submitted not one time in his whole 36 professional fights in his career, so I'm not as worried about that as I would be against like other strikers. He will be able to outstrike Hernandez on the feet, and I do believe after losing to Dricus and a year suspension off, Sean is going to want to put on a very good performance. But at the same time, this is one of those fights that is going to be won by whoever shows up that night. So as always, let me know how you see this fight going. Will Strickland be able to defend the takedowns and keep it on the feet, or will Hernandez's pressure just be too much to handle? If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like and subscribe for more. I'll see you guys on the next one.